So, welcome to today's Masters of Arts in Leadership Studies panel. Um, my name is Hazel Claros, and I am the SOL's Assistant Director of Admissions and Outreach, and I will be moderating today's panel. We also have Shannon Patino. Shannon, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself very briefly.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Hazel. I'm Shannon Patino. I am the SOLS admissions advisor. So if you have any questions about the program after this panel, feel free to get in touch with myself, or you can send an email to the SOLS admissions and we can get you an appointment with me.
All right, Shannon will be your first point of contact for any questions that you have about the program. And with that, I would also like to introduce our panelists for today. So we have Anthony Lee, who is a leadership facilitator and consultant for Pivotal Moments. Go ahead and wave to the crowd, Anthony. We have Andrea Medina, Global Program Manager for Global Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at LinkedIn. Wave to the crowd. Molly Patrick, Associate Director at Stanford's Graduate School of Business. And Gary Ransom, founder of Workhorse Fitness and Nutrition LLC and Director of Internal and External Relations at Fit Club Athletic. Very fancy titles, everyone. I love it. So, with that, I would like to welcome all of our panelists and allow you all to introduce yourselves a little bit further. So, if you could share your name, your pronoun, where you're from, and what drew you just first off to the leadership studies program. Molly, if you could go ahead and take the lead with that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having us, Hazel and Shannon. So I am from San Diego, grew up, which is kind of rare, I think, for maybe people coming to San Diego for school. Um, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. And what drew me to the MALS program really was because I did want an interdisciplinary higher degree. I wasn't set on any one path. And I think that I'll get into later, but I think it really did help me kind of broaden my horizons and give me a better chance at maybe different career paths. So.
All right, Anthony, if I could have you share.
Yeah. So my name is Anthony Lay, pronounced spelled L-E, but pronounced Lay, as in like legacy, as in the did meet your best friend, like let's go. Preferred pronouns is I go by he, him, his, and I'm located in San Jose, California, 8 hours north. I know because I used to do a drive a lot, and I miss going to San Diego. And what drew me to the leadership studies program was that I was looking for a way that will allow me to help build leadership in different sectors I worked in. I worked in tech, private, non-profit, religious, government, and that's just through the connection I've had, done consulting work. And so I needed something that would really allow me to be an adaptive leader in all those sectors.
Andrea, if I can have you share.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Andrea Medina. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. I moved to San Diego for a master's in leadership studies, and I was really looking for another opportunity to go further, just generally in understanding leadership concepts. I knew that I really loved leadership development programs and working with a youth leadership organization back home in San Antonio for, over 8 years at that point. And so I really was wanting the cutting edge of concepts and theories and what kind of philosophies are out there regarding leadership development and leadership studies. And this was just, I was reading the program and it really called to me, and it felt like I wrote the curriculum. I was like, how does this exist? I feel like this is exactly what I wanted. And so that kind of was a natural progression into something I was already really interested in. My pronouns are she, her. I know I forgot that in the beginning, but yeah, that's what drew me to the MALS program.
And Gary, if you could share a little bit about yourself as well.
Yes. So, hi, everybody. My name is Gary Ransom. I'm from Zanesville, Ohio, close to Columbus, Ohio. If you guys didn't know where Zanesville is, I was looking, for opportunities. As a graduate transfer, I was still playing football, so I had another place to play in mind. and I just got into the Master's of Leadership Studies program. Honestly, just to keep learning and growing outside of football. You know, I wanted to find an identity outside of football, and I wanted to be able to lead people lead more people without just like being my peers. You know, so I wanted to challenge myself mentally and physically, especially with the move going all the way across the country. So, you know, with the support from my loved ones have really helped me to be able to finish the program and stay committed. And I just overall had a great experience by challenging myself.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your answers, and we'll dive into that a little bit more. So moving forward, we'll dive into some questions that we have prepared in advance. If other questions come up, we'll have time dedicated at the end to use the chat feature or to unmute yourself so that you can go ahead and ask the question to our panelists. So let's go ahead and jump in, and you each have your order assigned for responding to the questions, so just feel free to follow up one after another. So to start off, why did you choose an interdisciplinary master's program based in the study of leadership? Andrea?
So I too kind of, you know, knowing that I wanted to go deeper into academic theory around leadership, I was still kind of curious and had a question mark over what that would mean professionally, right? And so I was hoping that this would create a basically stomping ground for me to not only learn, but network with people in the field. And so knowing that there was going to be a cohort of 20 people, similarly probably going through 20 or more, going through different courses of life and different, you know, job opportunities. And I was really, you know, hoping and leaning on that network opportunity to open up and expand my knowledge of what was out there. And so that's kind of, I wanted the flexibility of, you know, leadership studies. You can do so much. Every industry, you know, has leaders. And what that meant to me was the flexibility to define that, especially when you kind of read over the curriculum and seeing that that's part of it, and you're learning to navigate your own leadership journey and learning the concepts and how can you integrate that into pretty much anywhere you go. And so that alone really, you know, gave me confidence that I could really make this into whatever I wanted. And so I felt confident that yes, it's exactly what I want to study, but it also gives me a lot of flexibility. So that's kind of why I wanted to go down that route.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you have a little bit more like of a vision of what you wanted. I remember asking in an info session like this to a faculty member, you know, do I have to have it all figured out before I sign up for 2 years of my life? And he said, actually, it's probably better because you're going to change your mind probably 5 billion times during, which that did end up happening. But my background is in sociology, so I was really interested in kind of the structures of why society behaves the way it does. And then I think it just drew me because you're applying that to organizations, and organizations have their own flavor and culture, and it's all really complex, and that really interested me. And then as I went through the program, I uncovered more and more of what I really wanted to focus on. And I felt like now I have a kind of an arsenal or toolkit for navigating whatever I decide to do next.
For me, I saw a huge opportunity to grow personally and professionally within the Master's in Leadership Studies program. I thought the Master's in Leadership Studies program really spoke to me. Always wanted to be a leader, always exemplified that, you know, within my community, within like just the football teams that I played on. And then I got my degree in exercise science kinesiology, and I saw an opportunity to mesh the two. Because leadership, again, is very broad and you can lead at any level. So I saw an opportunity to lead other personal trainers, other people with businesses, you know, so they can grow and develop and, you know, develop their business and develop their niche. So that's what I've been able to do. And then also, you know, a lot of my heroes, you know, were leaders such as Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Gandhi, the Williams sisters, Jim Brown, LeBron James, and of course my mom, you know, for just a short list of people that I really appreciate and value their leadership.
Yeah. Oh man, it's always hard to follow these three. So for me, it's interesting because always I hate suffering, and I've seen a lot of my community suffer a lot, and the answer to alleviating suffering, I feel like on a systems level, I believe is leadership. That's the answer, and that's actually what really got me into leadership. Is that if I can help guide the next generation of leaders, and it alleviates one other person's life, that would be ideal. That would be the dream for me. And so I chose leadership studies because it allowed me to really work in different sectors, like I was saying before, and it allowed people to do. Um, it allowed me to understand the psychology, like the universal truth, I guess I want to say, what leadership looks like, what is needed to grow as a leader. And USD had that program and it made sense. I remember the day when I searched it up, I was like, oh, this is perfect because I look at the faculty and they range from business to nonprofits, from racial justice and equity to environmental like support, like advocacy. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. They had a leadership coaching program. I'm like, yes, because that's actually one of my focus was how to be a leadership coach. Um, they had mindfulness and leadership. They have self-compassion leadership. They have nonprofit organizational leadership. And so that was like, oh, everything I needed was one spot and it's right there in San Diego and it was gorgeous, it was perfect. So it was a no-brainer for me once I figured that part out.
Great, thank you all. Now, in terms of actually being a graduate student, graduate students have a lot of different responsibilities. They wear a lot of different hats, right? So, how did you balance those responsibilities, your personal, professional, and academic responsibilities throughout your program?
All right. So one thing about me too, I was working full time at USD while going into the master's program. So what was really helpful was I had a talk with my loved ones, family, and kind of let them know like my time is going to be different from now until when I finish. And they were really supportive, which I think I would recommend to anyone who has people that rely on them to have that conversation and kind of just give them a heads up that, you're going to be focused and that you need their support. So first and foremost, I did that. And then I really drilled down on my calendar. So I blocked out time to actually do all of the things. And I'm not kidding, like break time, transition time, workout time, everything was scheduled. And even if you get off a little bit, a little leeway, it's super helpful to at least have a goal of where you're going. And as well as I would say having a conversation with the people that you work with too. Because I think a lot of people are eager to support you if you tell them what you need. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of support.
For me, I agree with Molly with the support side, but I would expand in a different direction. I found a lot of success with the learnings that we were in our courses. I found a lot of success with just applying them. Allowed me to stay on course, allowed me to have that accountability. A lot of our professors allowed us to use ourselves as tools, as instruments, so to speak. And I didn't know what that meant at first until you started diving deep into the learnings. And for example, in our executive coaching course, we learned how to create a business canvas model. I never even heard of that and I've been running my fitness business for 3 years at that point. So it allowed me to really focus on the foundational part, and get those foundational things that I need to figure out for resources, who's my audience, and just really lean on those things that are all in a business canvas model. Another example is the mindfulness and meditation course, that allowed me to slow down and really just use myself as an instrument and really figure out where I was at, because I had so much going on and I was going from thing to thing and I never really got a chance to settle down and settle my mind down. And I always thought I was too busy, but Savano and Kate did a great job of just allowing us to be ourselves in those courses, and I could really just be calm and really figure out that you had enough time by just really trying to just find yourself and use yourself as an instrument. And meditation really allowed me to, create great boundaries for myself.
Great, thank you both. Now, what unique experiences or knowledge did you gain from this program that has helped you personally as well as professionally?
Absolutely. And I'll dive into kind of the very intense experiences around kind of our interpersonal and group relations type of programs and courses that we had. And so what these courses really did was throw us into a learning environment with other people to really unpack what's happening at various levels within groups, between people and within the larger system. And so I think that foundation, it was kind of 550 or integral leadership theory, right, is a course that you can take, and it really throws you into the deep end early, right when in that first semester when I took it. And I would recommend that because it gives you language to talk about a lot of things that you are thinking whenever you're in a space or whenever you're in a professional setting or even a personal setting. And, you have all these thoughts and you really don't know how to make sense of it yet. And so I think through that course, and then there's a couple of other courses, even the leadership coaching certificate, which I also kind of went through that program, builds on that learning to say, what is happening, right now in between my dynamic with this person, in between my dynamic with a group, with a team, within a system. And so those concepts and that framework, learning what a technical challenge is versus an adapted challenge, right? Knowing that technical you can kind of solve and there's an answer, and adaptive is something deeper, something internal that everyone kind of has to unpack and develop language around, or really address in a creative, innovative way. That by far was able to be applied across the board, and building on those with other courses. Like our organizational change class, or we got to TA the 550 class, that integral class, and be kind of coaches and mentors for the new people going through it, was just phenomenal, and is something I literally use on the daily when I'm unpacking situations or when I'm going through strategizing, especially at LinkedIn on the diversity and inclusion belonging team. There's so many adaptive challenges, right? How are we addressing structural racism in our teams, right? Or within the LinkedIn platform itself, right? How can we actively work against biases in all systems, in all of our departments and teams? And so those conversations happen daily as well for me. And that is something that I really, really have latched onto, and that has helped me navigate everything from then on.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was trying to formulate what I want to say, and then piece of what Gary was talking about, what Andrea was talking about, what Molly's talking about, these are all classes. So mine is particularly interesting was that in my first semester, I took an integral leadership theory class, a mindfulness class, and a coaching class. And something you'll notice as you do leadership work, right? Because the integral leadership theory class teaches you the language, teach you how to unpack things, which I think it was also interesting because everyone started talking like the professors, and they're trying to catch this lingo. And then the mindfulness class allows me to slow down and go, oh, why am I trying to pick up this language here? What is the real Anthony showing up, right? And in the coaching class, Andrea and I were talking, this is actually one of our sessions, we had a practice session. We discovered it was that yes, we have the language, but we now also have the courage to speak about what we want to do and how we want to do it. And so approaching it from an authentic leadership lens, that's important because that allowed me to train more leaders than the work I'm doing now. So I work with civic leaders, politicians, nonprofit leaders, leaders who want to be board members. And the biggest thing that they always have challenge with is how do I authentically express myself? And because I had that experience in these 3 classes, and because I was able to process that, I was not only gaining the skills and knowledge, but also the wisdom and be able to help guide leaders to show up as our authentic self and do it unapologetically, do it with their own courageous self. And I think because in contrast, the world teaches us how to be like drones and be like everyone else. Whereas in the work I'm doing with leaders is that I'm teaching them how to bring in their values, their gifts in a way that they can impact on the city level, county level, federal, state, in their nonprofit organization, in the private organizations. And so, yeah, like that was the experience I picked up, and it continued to follow me through because it was that unique combination of those 3 classes in my first semester that transformed how I do my leadership coaching and my leadership consulting for other people.
Great. Thank you all on that. And that ties really well into the next question, right? Like how does this apply in the real world? And so, you know, I'm gonna refer this to Molly and Andrea. What experiences within the program did you have that helped you find employment after graduation? And I think I'm gonna tie a little bit of that, why the employment that you seeked out, right? Like what did you gain from the program that made you gravitate towards those positions as opposed to others?
All right. Yeah, I was thinking about this question. I think there was my goal of the program was to take advantage of every single opportunity that there possibly was, and there are a lot. And so the first thing that came to mind was the mentorship program. They will pair you with a mentor that will help you, and it's they're a sounding board. So I was paired with a mentor that I still am in touch with today. She actually helped me, go through my resume, kind of coach me a little bit on like, what do you want to drill down on? Where do you want to focus? Because there are so many opportunities or directions you can go in. So that's one way. And then going through the coaching program, I was kind of able to also like self-coach, like, what do I really want? What are my values? Do I want to align with that? All that good stuff, as well as, other opportunities that I sought out were just connections in general. So making sure that you go to that random webinar or the sociology department screening of something, right? And you just like get to talk to a lot of different people. So now you have those people in your arsenal. And if for whatever reason something happens where they're connected to somebody else that you know on LinkedIn, and you kind of never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. So that is my advice, I would say. And then why or what I was looking for employment after graduation, I knew I wanted to stay within a leadership lens, so affecting leadership and leadership development, whether that was, bachelor's age or college students or executives. I landed with Stanford and the executive education department, which is really awesome because I get to kind of partner with the faculty there to create experiences online and in person. So that really drew me to the role that I'm in right now. So it was kind of that being able to kind of create curriculum and experiences as well as stay within that kind of leadership development space so that I wasn't kind of losing that, because that's one thing that, after you go through the program, you really start to miss it if you don't practice or are in that space.
Yeah, and I can piggyback off that. I really didn't know where I was going I took a year between my undergrad and going to grad school, and I, got a nonprofit job. I had several internships, one with kind of an NBA franchise, right, back in San Antonio, the Spurs, one at a tech startup, one at a nonprofit. So there I am in all these spheres, and I'm like, where do I really want to be? And, I worked for that year with another nonprofit and was still curious, like, where is this going though? I know academically and conceptually I want to learn stuff, but what does that mean? I still didn't know until right after, closer to when I was really applying for jobs seriously in the last 3 to 2 months before graduation. I started honing in on program management. I didn't even know that could be a direction, right? I was going towards, admin roles in higher ed, and then program management, maybe in the tech sector or in higher ed, right? What's accessible, during school, I had assistantships, which are, basically student internships at USD. And I had 2 of them, and I was able to have technically a full-time job, but with 2 part-time assistantships, and was like, I like this, I could do this. That's a good foot in the door. I'm already doing this for over a year now. And so I went that route initially, and got also at Stanford with the executive education department, a program manager role. And that is really tapping back into my skill set from working with the youth leadership programs for, over 10 years. And I said, that's kind of where my passion came from for even getting this degree. That is a career. I didn't know I could make a living through that career. And it just so happened that that was the start of getting my foot in the door to LinkedIn, and other tech companies, and learning about program management. You can become a senior program manager, you can become a manager, and then a director, right? Seeing the trajectory really opened my eyes through the process of making that jump. And if you don't know about program management, that's an entire career that you can have. Running programs at these companies, we're overseeing partnerships at these companies, and it's very exciting, and there's a lot of momentum behind it, especially in the diversity and inclusion space right now. That's kind of just something that has offshot, given these, very tumultuous times culturally, societally, for a lot of our communities, especially underrepresented groups. And so I felt like it was serendipitous timing. When I made the jump, it was pre-COVID and pre-George Floyd and BLM massive scale movement. And it just felt like it was this serendipitous opportunity, but really being able to bring in that leadership lens, the systems level thinking, the coaching experience that I have, and putting that into play at a company where there's over 16,000 employees, was just something that I didn't even know that this existed for myself. And so it was really cool to see that emerge, and trusting my gut and learning from, people around me in the program, seeing their trajectories. I know I still have a lot of amazing colleagues that are doing kind of running programs or directors in higher ed, or, entrepreneurs. And so the fact that that was my route is very unique, but everyone can have a route is super inspiring. But that's kind of where I ended up.
Great, thank you both. And now, in terms of the experience within the program, what comes to mind in terms of as a very rewarding experience? I don't want to say most rewarding, because I think everything that you've all have shared has been extremely rewarding and applicable to your lives beyond just the program. But what's an experience that you still hold near and dear to your hearts right now, that you carry as something that's very important from the program?
Yeah, for me, it was graduation day. It's just a very fond memory because, from our first day of 550 and, walking into that class, I thought I was on a reality TV show. Like, I didn't know what space I was in. And, I just remember feeling so proud of not only just myself, but everybody in our cohort, how much we developed and learned over time. And that's exactly what we were looking for. Everybody was looking to grow and learn and develop, obviously strategies, but also as a person. I just got to see a lot of my cohort and peers just grow. So I was very proud. And then I got a chance to, have my family out. That was the first time me seeing my family in 2 years. My family is very, very close to me. They're the reason why I do what I do. And I got a chance to have my mom out on a plane. She's never been on a plane before. So just that whole process leading up to graduation day, having them there, having my graduation party, and just being around them, just being around love, and them sharing how much they were proud of me because of the development that I've had. And they're like, man, you grew up. And it was just and I felt it. It was definitely genuine, because I needed to grow up. I was just needed to grow up in different ways and grow outside of football and just be more than a football player. And it solidified why I moved. It solidified why I went through everything that I went through in life, and everything doesn't happen for a reason, but I do believe that this situation allowed me to grow and develop, and it was something that I personally needed to continue doing so. So that was just my favorite memory.
Wow, how am I supposed to follow that? Okay. Other than meeting the love of my life, I will say a really rewarding experience was really like giving yourself time, like you said, Gary, like to develop yourself. So a lot of us just think it's going to happen, or eventually, you know, if I stay at a place long enough, like I'll get the promotion or whatever. But specifically, the flexibility within what we did for our international experience. So we really took that to the next level where you can decide to do whatever you want. And since we were both kind of interested in curriculum development and like cross-cultural, how does that, you know, play into leadership and identity? We were like, well, why don't we just make our own workshop and let's do it internationally, and let's try to, again, pull on our network strings. And it came together, and it was really hard, but in a good way. Like I could feel my brain stretching while it was happening. Kind of stressful, again, in a good way, but it allowed me to process and practice and see myself in doing that, and being a viable thing that I could do. So I'll leave it at that.
So I can't resist. I'm going to just say this. So the studies program that we're in was under the Schools of Leadership, Education, Science, or SOLS. And I make this joke all the time because, in a sense, I found my soul's mate, but Molly and Andrea found each other, which is actual soul's mate. Even more so. I feel bad for everyone who just had to listen to that really bad joke. But I mean, that's the joke I make since the day I left from graduation, and I still stick by that. It's amazing how there are so many people who share the very similar vision and hopes and dreams to make the world better through leadership development. We share very similar values in terms of like racial equity, justice, personal development, transformational leadership. And it's wonderful. I'm still connected with a lot of my soul's friends, soul's mate. They still reach out to me. I reach out to them. We talk about what's going on in the world, what are we doing, and how do we make those changes? And so the fire that's still within us, still there. We're always dreaming of how we can make the world better, how we can use our leadership learning and how to incorporate it in the work. And it's always fun to go back and then chat and catch up with folks and be like, oh my goodness, you're doing that. Wow, things have blown up since you've done this. And that has been so rewarding for me because I'm a big believer in this too. If you want to do big things in the world, you can't do it by yourself. And SOLS USD has given me like a great community to go back to, connect with, and then like just inspire each other.
And of course, meeting my fiance, Molly, and getting to go through the cohort experience with Molly and these two fine gentlemen in our presence, and Hazel even. So the fact that you get to meet and work and become so close with your cohort is really, really rewarding. And kind of like Anthony said, when you come back and just catch up, we all have that shared experience. It feels like we're re-entering kind of a very sacred relationship or shared understanding of how we can dive into a change the world conversation or what we're up to conversation, and then go deeper and deeper and unpack things and also laugh. And also we have spent many hours with each other, and the relationships are huge and one of the most rewarding things. And to double click on the international experience, that was huge in challenging my comfort zone, right? I'd never been to Mexico City, and we went to Mexico City in a foreign country and reached out to a professor who we both had, and we're like, I know now you're a professor in Mexico City. Will this work? Getting the response back that it will work and that he was more than willing to help us make it happen. Again, that Souls Shared Language Network was huge. And so we were just like jumping up and down, like, this is it. We were able to do what we dreamed of and kind of create it on our own terms and make it what it really was. One more was, remember that youth leadership development program? It was called the National Hispanic Institute. They actually had an on-campus program at USD, and I was able to use my internship course to go be an assistant educational director. And there's about 200 undergraduate students from all over the country, and some from Mexico and some from Panama and wherever. They come on campus, and I got to, you know, give back to that organization, but put it in the perspective of my internship course. And, you know, some of these people that I'd known since I was the age of 13, going through that program, coming and now being an educational, you know, director for that program was huge for me personally, just because it was like merging all the worlds together. And so this really did feel like a culminating, pivotal experience on so many levels. Like, that is such a loaded question of what the most rewarding experience was. But like Gary said, having my grandparents be able to come, you know, I don't know how much longer I have with them. Like, my parents, and the fact that they were there and got to come to California, they don't really get to go on vacations, was just something that makes me very emotional just thinking about it to this day, because of how much sacrifice goes into getting us where we are. But yeah, I think there's so many rewarding things that come out of it, but that was huge.
Can I just say I miss you all? Thank you all for sharing that, and for being so vulnerable and open about your experiences. I think people often go and pursue a master's program because it just seems like the logical next step, right, in terms of career growth, in terms of you know, some career advancement, but this program really does challenge that notion of doing something just for the sake of a career, and you're all, you know, living proof of that it has impacted so many parts of your lives, but also other people's lives. So all right, so one last question for all of you, and then we can open it up to any other questions that we have. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to prospective students who are shopping around looking for a master's program that lines up with their values and their goals?
Whatever one you choose, and of course we're biased, this one, you know, is transformative, but I think, as I alluded to earlier, you don't really have to have everything figured out before you do it, but being committed to your own growth is the really critical piece. So if you're going to commit to it, make sure that you have thought about the sacrifices that you're going to need to make, time-wise, relationship-wise, with family and loved ones and work and things like that. But I promise you it's worth it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And then also, you know, don't be afraid to get outside of your bubble. I couldn't even imagine myself what I would look like if I just stayed in my little bubble from Zanesville, Ohio. You know, I just couldn't even imagine that. So it's scary. It's not, you know, it's not something that it's going to be linear. Like, you're going to be learning, you know, as you grow, you're going to go through growing pains, and, you know, and also just be a sponge. Anytime you can actually learn and gather information from anybody, try to do so, you know, and you'll be able to use your experience and knowledge to filter out what you need to know and what you can apply. But yeah, that's just like, you have to be open and be, you know, not afraid to just learn and grow from others, you know, and just be humble, you know, from learning from others, and try to apply that to your life.
I would double click on that. And definitely the program is set up in itself to be an opportunity for you to challenge yourself in every way possible, right? So you have an internship, you have an international experience, you have a possible coaching opportunity or coaching program, or you can take 1 or 2 courses. You can go take another course at any of the other schools on campus. You can go do a certificate program, a trans-border certificate program, like Molly did that. What is it that you're going to step up and say, I'm putting myself out there? I don't know anyone in San Diego. I might know some people. If I don't though, how am I going to go put myself out there and have that entrepreneurial spirit? And it is scary. Like Gary said, it's so scary. I moved all the way from Texas. I was really scared to do this, but you know, what does an email that wasn't responded to do? You know, it was a no, who cares? On to the next, right? You know, put yourself out there, try and connect with people who are doing things that inspire you, try and set up that opportunity the way you envision it or can imagine it, right? Dream big. We do these things called world cafes where we just dream and write all the ideas possible down first, right? Don't say no. Just let's do a one round of just go there with your big ideas and dreams for what things can be or what opportunities could look like. And just going for it will be hard and you're going to have late nights, but I have so much that I can write about, talk about, speak to from, you know, just really pushing myself to go out there and make that internship connect to that bigger vision or make that international experience exactly what I wanted, right? Not compromising that. And it was beautiful. Lots of tears, lots of laughs, lots of really deep friendships, relationships built. And yeah, just have that entrepreneurial spirit. And although you're scared, push through it and make whatever you want happen.
And so I do see, so we do have one person logged on. So I'm going to see if, Zach, are you able to unmute yourself? Do you have any questions, comments? Really, you have, you know, 4 amazing alumni here that can share the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, any questions you have regarding the program.
Yeah, I'm shopping around at the moment. I did apply, and I currently live in San Diego. So it is appealing in many ways, especially being the only program that I applied to that is all in person, or well, we hope that the next fall semester is in person compared to a lot of other programs I'm looking at that are, you know, online. But I was wondering, you know, how extensive was your research into different programs before? And then I know you talked a little bit about your process of choosing this program, but you know, a lot of you guys made big moves to go all the way to San Diego. So obviously that was a big decision. So just kind of like, what was your thought process of choosing this program? And were you like shopping around to similar programs, stuff like that?
I did some shopping around and I think I landed on a couple of like organizational development or organizational change leadership. And, you know, it was very heady and there were some kind of very niche technical directions. And I think I liked the flexibility. I really did like the flexibility of the general leadership studies, right? That really sat just more like I could work it to what I want to me in my head. And then reading the curriculum and the courses, I was like, oh my goodness, even more so, you know, how can I, once I align and kind of really know what I want after, I kind of had an idea, then I can tailor like the internship or the international experience or this, right, into exactly what I want to learn or challenge myself to learn. And so that's really what drew me was leadership studies, all encompassing, and you kind of tweak it to what you need.
I could add on to that too a little bit. And so when it was weird. I had a confirmation interview and the person's like, go get your master's. I'm like, okay, fine. Search up master's leadership. And the first thing that showed up was, you know, USD. So I make a joke sometime in the past where like, man, you guys really paid your Google ads really well. But at the same time, every part of me felt like that was right. But the practical side said, you know, I got to explore, right? So I explored Gonzaga, LMU, and everything was about higher education leadership, or it was about some kind of business leadership called the MBA, right? And I'm like, well, I don't want to pay for my network. I want to do some real learning. All right, I just clown on MBAs too, so oops, sorry, hopefully the MBA program doesn't see this. What I wanted was the encompassing what Andrea was talking about, the integrated leadership stuff. And as much as I did the work, I continually went back to USD because they had what I need, the coaching programs, the different intersections of leadership, like mindfulness, organizational behavior. And I'm just like, yeah, hands down, that just made sense for me because of that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with every single thing that Andrea and Anthony said. Like, you can customize this program for yourself. You know, like I originally really wanted to dabble into nonprofit, and I got some of that sector. Then I saw the opportunity in coaching and executive coaching, so I dabbled in that too. So I was able to really create a unique experience for myself. So everybody's path and experience will be different. All of us have been hungry enough to try different things. Some people would in the program may just wanted to stick with just nonprofit and that leave it at that. But think for all of us, we all saw opportunities to keep growing and keep learning. So that's something that you want to do as a leader, and you want to challenge yourself. Then definitely Souls is something that you definitely want to make sure you keep going towards, because that was the key for me.
What I really liked about the MALS program was the practicability. So like you learned it and then they gave you the space to practice, and that was part of every single class. So it wasn't just theory. Every single class you get a chance to go up there, present, get feedback, and like continuously improve. So I think literally every single class they're like, nope, you're going up there, ready, go. We're throwing you in, and you have that container. It's a safe space because, and I really I'm thankful for that, because when you go back into the real world, you don't have that same safe space, but you're more able to notice things and navigate certain situations because you've been practicing.
Yeah, definitely. And another question is just like comparing different possible or potential master programs or graduate programs is, I think this program is very appealing because of that flexibility and you can make it what you want. But then also on the other side of it, you look at it and you say 2 years down the line, I went to a liberal arts school, a small liberal arts school. And then after 4 years, I didn't know what I was going to do. And so that was years ago, but I found my way after it. I don't want to be 2 years down the line and then be in the same spot of, I learned so much awesome stuff, but this doesn't produce a job or a thing that I could be like, oh, I'm going to go to med school and be a doctor. And that's a problem with the humanities in general, but this is such a broad master's. It's obviously nerve-wracking to kind of go down that path and not have a set, job that I want to hold in 2 years. So I know you talked a little bit about it being in a similar spot, maybe, or I think that was Andrea, but did anyone else feel that going in? And do you think that's pretty normal for someone going into this program?
Yes, and I'll go back to, sorry, I think I cut Anthony off, but I knew that I didn't know and that I wanted to use the program to figure out and test what I wanted to hone in on, and then just taking advantage of the faculty as well. So you also have an advisor, an actual faculty advisor, and they're willing to meet with you regularly. And I wish I met with my advisor more, but I know it's really hard to kind of let go of like knowing a certain outcome after, but I really just let it all go. And I found my way by trying to stay as true to how I was feeling in each stage. And I know that's maybe not the most helpful, but there are people that had, I know I want to get an OD PhD after this, and this is going to help me because I'm going to get in front of the research and the other faculty that can connect me to the other programs and things like that. And then we have, adjunct faculty that are executive coaches and have their own firms. So you can get connected with them. And, other people that do curriculum development. So I don't know if that's helpful either, but.
Yeah, vibing with the professors. And sometimes it wasn't even your advisor. You're like, oh my gosh, this professor, but they're adjunct, right? So they're not, and they're willing to be like, yeah, let's meet up. Let's have a career. What's your direction? What's up with you? Kind of conversations. And that, so many of those random, coupled with the opportunity to have a mentor or to even get coached by your peers who are in training, right? You just have all these touch points that are really at your disposal. Even if you're not in the coaching program, you'll know someone in your cohort that's doing it. And if they need to practice their hours, you're kind of getting to work through this in many spaces. A lot of courses even have those reflection papers of like, what's next? And you're like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So it's built into some of the courses too, of like, what's that next level for you? What is your work? What are you working on internally and externally and professionally? And so I was getting it from so many angles that I'm like, oh, I better know what I'm doing like by the time I'm done with this. Otherwise, then, you know, that's on me, because I just felt like it was so readily available at all of those touch points. And, you know, that mentor, we really hashed out what that future looked like. And, you know, I could have gone the contract leadership development route, the program manager route, higher ed route, go try to make a jump to tech, learning and development, right? Do I want to kind of facilitate and teach, right? And so I landed kind of early on, even that last year, I kind of had these routes after only 1 year. And before I didn't have any of that. I didn't even know that those were going to be options. And so that was really exciting.
And it's funny because like they're just bringing back memories when I was like I remember the time I was talking to Andrea about this, like where we're going to be. I joked around, like, you should move to the SF Bay area. That's where the job's at. She ended up moving to the SF Bay area, and she brought Molly along, right? But that's an example of when I was talking about Soulsmate, right? Is that when you start having that connection with previous generation, next generation, with your faculty, these networks will start kind of provide these career paths for you. It's weird now because like I just recently just said I'm going to start my own, after so many years working 9 to 5, right? Do leadership development. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit now to like being my own independent business owner. I now have students from this year and last year who are like, hey, can I work with you some way? I'm like, wait, are you sure about that? I was like, no, we would love to work with you. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I have some opportunities here actually available. So I just brought like a program manager to help me with some of like this contract work that's coming on that does leadership development in the Asian American community that will help produce civic leaders. And for her, it was like, oh, because she reached out, connected with the previous generations of students, where I was reaching out to previous generation of students and also trying to figure out what makes sense. But I think the main thing is like not to stay into that fear space so much, and then just to like trust yourself. Because if you've done so well, if you're alive today and you're doing so well today now, right, that's the same like resiliency and the same strength and power that's going to guide you through the next stage as well.
Yeah, I would have to agree with every single person up here. You know, at the end of the day, like there's some people who didn't know, you know, what they're going to do. You know, so it is common, right? But the thing is, there's so many people from different backgrounds, you know, and diverse backgrounds that you get a chance to mesh with. You know, just piggybacking off everybody's, you know, answer to the question. So it's going to be up to you, you know, in a sense, to figure out what you want to do, right? Because there's going to be multiple paths that you're going to be faced with, and then through those paths, you can really hone in on ways you can grow and develop. So that's going to also put you in another space where you can really figure out what you want to do, but why. You know, finding your why is huge. You know, in Masters in Leadership Studies, is you got to figure out what your why is. Why are you even trying to grow and develop beyond where you are now? You know, so once you figure those things out, it will align you with your path. You know, what you want to do. Since you're already in, you know, humanities, you know, it seems like you want to help people. You want to just, you know, help your community somehow, some way. So if that's what you want to do, you figure out ways that you can, you know, strategize around, like, how can I help my community? You know, what's some things that I can do with this leadership studies background, and then connect with people, you know, from a networking standpoint, and have those people join you. You know, that's just another awesome opportunity, just like Anthony said. So it's a surprise, and, you know, everybody's experience is going to be different.
Yeah, thank you all, and thank you, Zach, for amazing questions. And you know, we are at our time limit right now, so I just want to wrap it up with a quick thank you for everyone, and really just for, again, sharing very authentically your experiences, and a thank you to Zach for asking, again, really great questions, but questions that really draw more on just, beyond the technicalities of like, here's what the program's about. It's why this program over another. And I hope that it came across that this program, isn't just something that you can add to your roster just to check off that you have a master's. It goes much more beyond that. There's definitely going to be ups and downs, right? That's part of the process of growing and developing and challenging yourself. And as someone who was able to have all of these folks as classmates at one point or another, I can also share that you might love moments, you might hate moments, but even the moments you hate, you learn to love because they really helped change you and help you be a better version of yourself. Great. Well, thank you all and have an amazing evening.